Cinema Wasteland is one of my favorite shows of the year.
Close-knit community, passionate fans.
It's like a family reunion every time I come back.
To me, it's like home.
You know, from the first time I came, it felt like family. I mean, it felt like home.
A lot of people say Wasteland's family. A lot of people know each other. They've been coming for years and years.
Cinema Wasteland is extremely important to me. It's my 2 favorite weekends of the year.
All of those people are exactly right. This is a very special place, right here at Cinema Wasteland, and today we're going to talk about why this is a particularly special show to so many people.
What's special and different about Cinema Wasteland is it's very focused on a specific era.
The niche is anything outside of the mainstream, whatever constitutes the mainstream these days. So not so much Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, not so much the franchises, but exploitation, cult, psychotronic cinema, whatever you want to call it.
It's not mass produced, and the people that come here and the vendors have a lot of really obscure, rare things. From books to movies to anything related to cinema.
It's not just mass market, it's specific grindhouse 70s, 80s drive-in era.
So it's like a lot of that, people that grew up on that, whether it was VHS, drive-in, theatrical, Laserdisc, whatever.
This show has been going on for
almost 20 years, or almost 25 years.
25 years and has not changed one iota since it first opened 25 years ago. The dealer's room's the same size, the layout is the same, the number of the guests is the same, and the people that come are the same degenerates that have been coming for 25 years.
Anybody you stop in the aisles, you can start mentioning movies and everybody knows what you're talking about. It's a serious horror fans here. Drive-in exploitation, horror, even the sci-fi. It's just a unique crowd that is so much fun to have conversations with.
I find myself sometimes sitting at a table and I'm paying attention to three different people at the same time, all with different conversations about different genres. And I'll add here, I'll add there.
You can find the conversation pretty much anywhere from the hallway to the bar to standing out front smoking cigarettes to standing in front of somebody's table. And the conversations run across the board pretty much. And for the most part, doesn't matter who it is, you're invited in the conversation usually.
It's people who are not exactly the same in their beliefs, but they have one thing that they all believe in, which is you have the right to have your opinion. And I'm going to appreciate your opinion, but I'm still going to have my own.
Just hang out in the lobby or the bar. You can walk up to just about anybody and be like, hey, how's it going?
All you have to do to find a conversation is leave your room. Leave your room, walk out the door, you'll find a conversation. Come to the lobby, come to the bar area, you'll see people sitting in semicircles, circles, standing about, conversing about movies.
And that's how you meet friends. All of a sudden, hey, I remember the first time I met, such and such. We were just talking about whatever, and then it ended up being like a friendship, and then you carry it on, and then you're like, hey, I wonder if such and such is going to be back. They come to the show, and then, that's how it becomes that community.
This is a friendly place. I've met some of my best friends in the world here.
Is there a kind of person that comes to this show?
People that are really into the films are very experienced. They've watched and saw a lot of films. They grew up with this stuff. So you could whip out obscure titles or people and they knew who you were talking about.
A movie fan, a horror movie fan, a grindhouse movie fan.
But Cinema Wasteland somehow feels like this weird mecca for the misfit toys that are out there. But it's a certain type. It's someone who just cannot help but be compelled to create or be compelled to discuss the kind of things that they love.
They're not judgmental if you like a movie or if you don't like a movie that they like. You can discuss it like adults, which I love.
So when this show started in 2000, right, there weren't a lot of other horror conventions around the country. Chiller Theater, Monster Bash, I think, may have been around.
Yeah, they've been around.
There was this other show, Fright Vision, in Ohio, that was like a small little show. But when the first Cinema Wasteland show happened, it was a Dawn of the Dead reunion, and he had a bunch of Dawn of the Dead cast members here, right? I believe that was the first show that billed their guests as a reunion.
I specifically remember a guy flew in from Japan because Dawn of the Dead was his favorite film. Flew in from Japan to come to this show.
People who come to Wasteland, Wastelanders as we call ourselves, are very knowledgeable, generally speaking. A lot of us have similar interests when it comes to the types of movies that we adore.
I think a Wastelander is probably somebody that has a love or an obsession for things that are cinematic, whether it be a different type of genre or the horror genre or drive-in classics, but people who come here really have a sense and an understanding of cinema. So that's why they call it, Cinema Wasteland. We get off on this stuff, we get wasted on this stuff. So,
Wasteland is also a place where there's like a lot of non-separation between the guests and the attendees. A lot of the time you'll have guests hanging out in the lobby, guests going out to dinner with attendees.
So do you guys have any super memorable interactions with guests that have happened to you over the last 25 years?
I would say one of the best shows here for me personally was when they had the Zombie reunion. And Zombie is my favorite Lucio Fulci film. And to think that when I was watching that back on VHS, that at some point in my future I was going to be able to meet the entire main cast is just mind-blowing. And a lot of these people had no idea that people knew who they were in the States. So coming to Wasteland, and they were literally just adored by the fans coming in because we do know who they are and respect their work.
It's great seeing the Zombie reunion when he did that. They're all great. Actually, Michelle Bauer this weekend was fantastic. So it's always nice seeing somebody like that.
I loved seeing Sid Haig here. Because when he first started coming here, he was, he'd walk in and be like, just announcing that he's walked into the bar, and it was just the life of the party.
For me, number one would be Christina Lindbergh. I mean, just talk about, they say never meet your idols or whatever, but I don't think that's always true. I mean, yes, there are those exceptions that are unfortunately not cool, but one of the cool things that is cool about this place is most of the guests are very cool and laid back and accommodating and awesome, and she is the epitome of that. Her and Catriona McCall are two of my most favorites of the people I've been fortunate enough to meet here, because they were both just as excited to meet you as you are to meet them.
Absolutely, Catriona McCall.
Yes.
I was head over heels for her. I don't know how many other conventions she's done, but I was just enamored with her, and I brought so much stuff. I think anything that she was in or on that I own, I brought and got her to sign. I was just so happy to meet her.
Jim Warnowski, I've met him many times, but his appearance here was good because I was actually able to get something of my personal collection signed that I like. So his movie Nessie and Me ended up in the Dollar Tree bin, but he's still happy about that because at least it's still getting distributed. Zandor Vorkov, when he was here, was very memorable. Able to work with him and kind of be there for him. Carol Glenn, when she was here, very close to our table, was nice.
I'd like to take a second and talk about the appearance of Carol Glenn, who's better known as Carolyn Brandt, in October of 2022, as to me it exemplifies something that makes Wasteland just so special. Carol starred in nearly every film made by her ex-husband, the late director Ray Dennis Steckler, in the 60s and 70s, but she had never attended a convention, and she had very little sense of the really deep love that some of us have for her work in films like The Thrill Killers, Ratfinka Boo Boo, and The Trooper. So it was a huge thrill for so many of us when she was able to come to Cinema Wasteland and share her stories both at her table and at her first ever Q&A panel, which I was lucky enough to get to co-host with Christopher Wayne Curry, who is the author of The Incredibly Strange Features of Ray Dennis Steckler.
Well, I was having fun. I loved acting, and I thought, oh, another dramatic opportunity, and I get scared. And this is what we're doing. We're making all these films.
The other was H.G. Lewis, who I had met a couple times, I think, previously, but after the convention, H.G. Lewis was conducting the theme song for 2000 Maniacs, and he had the crowd sing all the yee-haw. And he sang the lyric, the song, and it was one of my most all-time favorite convention experiences. It was so much fun to have him do that.
Laureen Landon actually was one, because she was not mistaking me, but she's like, you look a lot like Mark Hartley, the Australian director, and she was like, thought I was like good looking because she liked Mark Hartley. So I'm just like, Laureen Landon is kind of like making the pass for me. And she ended up giving me a stack of every single photo she had. She was, oh, you can have everything.
Jane Arakawa was no longer in the industry as an actor, and it just so happened I had a hotel room right next to her. So every morning we'd come down in the elevator, and the first morning she's a little overwhelmed, like going, this is some weird shit. And I say, hey, how you doing? She goes, oh, it's fine, seems great, love you guys, yeah. And then the second day she's coming down the elevator and she's overwhelmed. She's like, I cannot believe how much people love this. I can't believe how many cool people I've met. And the last day I asked the same question again, which is like, how do you like it? And she just hugged me.
Some of these guests haven't thought about this production they worked on 30 years ago or more, 50 years ago. And a fan comes up that is in their 20s and knows that film almost better than they do because they've just watched it over and over and over again. The fan is just in awe that this guest is here. The guest is like, oh my God, somebody really remembers and admires something that I did 50 years ago. And this is could be the first time they've heard or felt that love and admiration in a long time. So it's both sides that are coming away with something positive on that.
But these guests are more accessible, so you can spend a few minutes with them, whereas at another show, you're lucky to get 5 seconds.
This is a movie convention. One of the things that I love about it, even though I certainly don't take advantage of it as often as I should, is that there's constantly films playing here. Pretty much from the time the show opens until the show closes.
2 in the morning?
Yeah, that's right. It goes past the show closing.
Yeah.
Shockwaves was always my favorite when they'd play that at night, if I could stay awake. So.
The best experience I had here seeing a film, Toe Tag Pictures premiered The Red Sin Tower, and it was an invite only. So I knew Fred Vogel at the time, and he gave me like a card with his SIG on it, and so that was my pass. And just to see that was actually outstanding. And Dear God No was another one.
Dear God No was the most incredible thing ever. I mean, riotous crowd. I didn't know anything about it going into it, just that we were gonna screen this thing. And it was absolutely the most wild, rowdy, awesome experience. I mean, the director was here, a bunch of the stars were here, and it was just a party, unbelievable time party. It was so much fun. I mean, I'm sitting here like totally getting chills just thinking about, reminiscing about how amazing that was.
Almost never anymore do you have conventions with much programming. The focus here is really not just on autographs and on the dealer room, both of which you can do and are great here, but we have movies and panels and conversations late into the night.
So it's pretty well known that on the premises, on the property where the house was located, there was a pretty substantial marijuana grow operation going on. But allegedly, you were all very well behaved, except for on a day that's been referred to as, quote, Brownie Day by various people.
The thing about Wasteland is you always hear the term finding your tribe, and Wasteland is a perfect place for that. Because if you are in a place where you don't have a lot of friends that you can talk seriously about films, Wasteland, you will find them. And like Aaron, to Aaron's point, it's the after hours that really are special, because then you can sit with other people that are the exact same way you are, maybe not as experienced, maybe more experienced, but you have those conversations about film, and things come up and you go off in this conversation and that conversation. You're teaching and learning at the same time while you're listening and talking to different film fans. To me, that has always been special.
Look, we all have very unique tastes, and we cannot find people with similar interests in our neighborhood, in our family. You know, you have your friends outside of conventions and stuff, but no one really shares the passion or interest that you have. You come to conventions to meet those same people that share that interest you have. And at Cinema Wasteland, because it's so small and intimate and specialized, yeah, like, oh, I love Spanish horror. You're not going to find the influx of Spanish horror fans at other conventions. But at Wasteland, you probably will, you know? And this is where you can really delve deep, and people are just, it's not about the guests, it's about the films themselves and celebrating the films. And you want to talk about film, you want to discuss film, this is going to be the place to get it more than anywhere else.